This idea that somehow black quarterbacks, it's racist against black quarterbacks, it's so lazy and dumb and simply not supported by any factual evidence. But this is my argument yesterday. Don't mistake what people say as setting the narrative. It's just like with the Brookings Institute. Things that are untrue, if they are repeated enough by propagandists, many of whom are not very smart, they become accepted as real. And the narrative truth of the underlying assumption becomes a reality. Oh, the NFL is racist against black quarterbacks. You heard all the idiots on The View clapping. Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl, 7 or 8 years, 10 years, everything runs together. Would have won another one if he hadn't thrown a goal line interception. Both those guys are among the highest paid quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Nobody with a functional brain thinks whether or not you can win a Super Bowl is based on your race. Yet they have allowed that narrative to exist and continue to be propagated. Was talking about how stupid the ladies on The View are. Just to confirm and reiterate, in my humble opinion, the dumbest group of people that is on television on a daily basis, any network, any program, is The View. And their audience, also mostly idiots. And they say things that are so unbelievably dumb on a day-to-day basis that sometimes I think their own stupidity actually we don't give justice to how dumb they are. This was, who was this? Which one of the View people was this? Sunny Hostin. Sunny Hostin in the wake of the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Sunny Hostin came on and said, this was an important win because it showed that black people could play quarterback. Listen.
Finally, we know that black quarterbacks can lead teams. And are smart enough to lead teams. I would like to see.
I always knew that. That was never a question. We knew that. But, it takes people a minute to catch up.
How about some black owners? Some black owners.
Okay. I mean, this is so dumb it makes my head hurt. The 4 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL right now are all black. Deshaun Watson, who was accused of sexually assaulting 30 different minority women, is the highest paid quarterback of all time in the NFL. In fact, he's the highest paid player of all time in the history of football. And he is accused of sexually assaulting 30 different women, most of them minorities. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl, incredibly highly paid. Patrick Mahomes already won a Super Bowl, you imbecile. Also incredibly highly paid. This idea that is out there that the NFL discriminates against black quarterbacks is particularly noxious, not only because it's untrue, but also because the NFL, as I talked about yesterday, is the ultimate meritocracy. Do you really think that Bill Belichick wouldn't play a black guy at quarterback if he thought it made his team more likely to win? And these arguments don't even make sense because if black quarterbacks were undervalued, which, as I just pointed out, they are not, but if they were, it would be a tremendous competitive advantage because of the salary cap. This is like my thing when it comes to women, like National Women's Day, they always trot out and they're like, women are paid 80 cents on the dollar for every dollar that men earn. And as a business owner, if that were true, why would I not just only hire women? If I could eliminate 20% of my labor cost, we would only employ women. The reason why women make less than men is because many of them take off time for child care and for having babies, and also because many of them do different jobs. Right? There's no teacher. If you're a teacher out there, you make the same salary whether you're a man or a woman. Jobs that are equal pretty much pay equally. But the NFL is so wildly competitive that if you were a transgender midget and you could play quarterback like Tom Brady, you'd be running around out there on the field. Every single NFL team and owner would love to pay their quarterback less. If black quarterbacks were being discriminated against, you would actually be more likely to win by hiring them, paying them less, and benefiting off of the racism of everyone else. It's like the best social justice warrioring out there. And I feel the same way about coaches, which is an obsession every year. This is where I think the NFL needs to push back. This is where NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell could say, yeah, you know, black quarterbacks are actually the 4 highest paid in the history of the NFL right now. It's kind of a significant factor. Deshaun Watson, again, hasn't been charged criminally, settled these suits civilly. But for those of you out there, I know a lot of you listening to Houston know exactly what I'm talking about. And we're number one, I think, in both Houston and Cleveland, which is where Deshaun Watson plays now. If there was real racism in the NFL, would Deshaun Watson, who was accused of sexually assaulting 30 different women during massages, by the way, for those of you who haven't paid attention, would he be the highest paid football player in the history of the sport? Jameis Winston went number 1 overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, never missed a game despite a fellow student pretty credibly accusing him of rape. Not only did that not impact Jameis, we won the Heisman Trophy, and he ended up going number 1 overall in the NFL draft. Far from being discriminated against, the NFL is so desperate for quarterback talent that the truth is actually that they'll overlook pretty much anything. If O.J. Simpson played quarterback and he still had the ability, there'd be a team willing to sign O.J. Simpson right now. Yeah, on the one hand, he killed Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. On the other hand, have you seen that rope of an arm he's got? And if you're out there and you're like, nobody would have ever signed O.J. Simpson again to play quarterback, Ray Lewis has a statue outside of the stadium in Baltimore. Ray Lewis was charged with double murder in Atlanta. They never found the killer. They never found Ray Lewis's white suit that he wore that night. They actually put him on trial for double murder, and then Ray Lewis flipped sides and testified against his co-defendants, which is unheard of. He has a statue outside of Baltimore Stadium. They won't let a statue of Abraham Lincoln stand in some places in America right now. Ray Lewis has got a statue, and he may have killed 2 people. So you can criticize the NFL for a lot. Being too lenient on felons is actually probably the most valid criticism, because that happens because teams want so desperately to win. This idea that somehow black quarterbacks, it's racist against black quarterbacks, it's so lazy and dumb and simply not supported by any factual evidence. But this is my argument yesterday. Don't mistake what people say as setting the narrative. It's just like with the Brookings Institute. Things that are untrue, if they are repeated enough by propagandists, many of whom are not very smart, they become accepted as real. And the narrative truth of the underlying assumption becomes a reality. Oh, the NFL is racist against black quarterbacks. You heard all the idiots on The View clapping. Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl, 7 or 8 years, 10 years, everything runs together. Would have won another one if he hadn't thrown a goal line interception. Both those guys are among the highest paid quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Nobody with a functional brain thinks whether or not you can win a Super Bowl is based on your race. Yet they have allowed that narrative to exist and continue to be propagated. That has nothing to do with the NFL itself. The NFL, if anything, because it's run by Roger Goodell, a white guy, he's so desperately afraid of being called racist. I halfway expect for Roger Goodell to be doing the gritty at halftime. I've said for a long time the number one way to end, by the way, kneeling in the NFL is basically ended. The number one way to end kneeling in the NFL and the Black Power salute would be if NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell walked out at midfield, took a knee during the anthem, and threw up the Black Power hand signal. Fist high to the sky. It would become immediately the least cool protest of all time. People would just stop doing it. As soon as rich old white guys do something, people hate it. Roger Goodell could have ended all of the protests in the NFL, just stride out right to midfield, take a knee during the anthem, throw up the Black Power hand signal. He'd get accused of cultural appropriation if he did it. I swear to God he would. Speaking of cultural appropriation, you know who I saw perform at Super Bowl? Do you remember Adam Duritz from the Counting Crows? He doesn't have dreadlocks anymore. He's just a Jewish kid. I thought he was mixed race for like 40 years now. Guy dated Courtney Cox, Jennifer Aniston. I'm not sure anybody had a better 1990s than Adam Duritz. He took his dreadlocks off. He just looks like an accountant now. He's up on the stage, 60 years old. He might as well be middle management at, a random shop out there. He didn't look like a rebel at all. Then I went and looked up his Wikipedia page because I really thought, he had dreadlocks. He's a mixed race guy. No, he's just a Jewish guy who got dreadlocks. I think he had to take them off because everybody was accusing him of cultural appropriation. I'm telling you, Roger Goodell walks out there to midfield, drops down to one knee, throws up the white power sign. White power, black power. They'd call it a white power sign if Roger Goodell did it. Roger Goodell would be the new face of white supremacy. This is what happens in America. Black man protests, white man takes over the protest. He now has turned the Black Power fist raised to the heavens into a symbol of white supremacy. You know that would be written. Somebody right now is already writing that at the Atlantic. They're listening. They're like, that's gold. I'm going to win the woke Olympics this year. I'm going to take Clay Travis's idea. This is genius. New York Times, Sunday Magazine edition. Everybody just got on their phone simultaneously. This is gold. Do you know how rich Roger Goodell is? He's trying to co-opt black protest. The new face of white supremacy is black protest. Just like the new face of white supremacy was Larry Elder running for governor. Tim Scott hasn't even announced for running for president yet. There's already draft pieces out there in the Washington Post. MSNBC's already got a draft editorial written. Tim Scott, how black man running for office as a Republican demonstrates the lingering impact of white supremacy. I mean, that's coming out. That's already written. 5 minutes after Tim Scott announces for president, he's going to be the new face, the new black face of white supremacy. They do have a playbook. And at least to their credit, you can tell exactly what plays they're going to run. They ain't trying to hide it.